What happens when a royal guest mistakes a daytime talk show for his personal throne room? In just 38 seconds, one comment would turn a routine interview into television chaos that nobody saw coming. The View's studio lights were bright that morning. Joy Behar sat at the table with her signature confidence, ready for what should have been a straightforward conversation. Prince Harry walked onto the stage wearing a relaxed smile, waving to the audience as they cheered. He settled into his seat, adjusting his jacket like he owned the place. Joy started with a simple question. "So, Harry, thanks for joining us today. Let's talk about your new projects and what you've been up to." Harry leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Well, Joy, I appreciate being here. Though I must say, I expected a bit more sophistication from this show." The audience went quiet. Joy's eyebrows raised slightly, but she kept her composure. Sophistication? We've had presidents, world leaders, and countless changemakers sit in that very seat. I think we're doing just fine. Harry waved his hand dismissively. Yes, I'm sure you have. But there's a difference between having important guests and actually understanding how to interview them properly. Joy's smile tightened, but she remained professional. "Well, why don't you help me understand then? What brings you here today?" "I'm here to discuss my charitable work," Harry said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Though I wonder if your audience can really grasp the complexity of global philanthropy." The other hosts exchanged glances. Joy took a breath, maintaining her poise. "Our audience is incredibly intelligent and engaged. Maybe you should give them more credit." Harry laughed, a short, dismissive sound. "I'm sure they mean well, but when you've dealt with real issues on a global scale like I have, you see things differently. You understand things that regular people simply cannot comprehend." Joy's jaw tightened. Regular people? Harry, everyone in this audience works hard, pays their bills, raises their families. They deal with real issues every single day. "It's not the same thing," Harry interrupted, leaning forward. "You're comparing apples to oranges. My work affects millions. Their concerns are, well, considerably smaller in scope." The audience started murmuring. Someone booed from the back. Joy held up her hand to calm them. "I think you need to reconsider what you just said. The people watching right now, the people in this audience, they are the backbone of society." Harry rolled his eyes. "This is exactly what I mean. You're being emotional instead of logical. This is why I rarely do American talk shows. Too much sentiment, not enough substance." Joy's patience was wearing thin, but she pressed on. "Let's move forward. Tell us about your foundation's recent initiatives." "Finally, a decent question," Harry said with a smirk. "We've been working on several projects that require a level of understanding most people don't possess. It's quite technical, really. I doubt your viewers would grasp the nuances." "Try us," Joy said, her voice firm. Harry launched into a long explanation, constantly using phrases like, "as someone of my background would understand," and "which ordinary people wouldn't know." Every few sentences, he'd pause to add another condescending remark about how complicated his life was compared to everyone else's. Joy tried to redirect. "That's interesting, but let's talk about how everyday people can get involved in charitable work." "Can they, though?" Harry questioned. "I mean, really? Charity at my level requires connections, resources, understanding. It's not just about dropping coins in a jar." "Millions of people volunteer and donate every day," Joy countered. "They make real differences in their communities without any royal connections." Harry scoffed. "Community work is fine, I suppose, but it's hardly comparable to the international scope of what I accomplish. You have to understand, Joy. Not everyone is cut out for this kind of responsibility." The audience was getting restless. Someone shouted, "Who does he think he is?" Joy ignored the outburst and continued. "I think you're underestimating what regular people are capable of achieving." "Am I?" Harry challenged. "Or are you overestimating them because you need ratings? Let's be honest about what this show is. It's entertainment for people who have nothing better to do at 11 in the morning. The audience gasped. Joy's face flushed, but she kept her voice steady. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Harry said, doubling down. "This whole format is designed for people who don't work, who sit at home watching television instead of contributing to society. And somehow I'm supposed to pretend that their opinions matter as much as people who are actually doing important work?" Joy put her cards down on the table. "Harry, I've been patient. I've been professional. But you've crossed a line. The people watching this show are teachers, nurses, parents, retirees who built this country. They are doing important work." "Teaching children their ABCs and changing bedpans?" Harry said with a dismissive laugh. "Please, that's necessary work, sure. But let's not pretend it's on the same level as international diplomacy and global humanitarian efforts." The audience erupted in boos. Joy raised her voice to be heard over them. "You need to stop right now. This is disrespectful and completely out of line." Harry stood up slightly, then sat back down, clearly agitated. "I'm being honest. Someone has to say it. The world has different tiers of importance, and pretending otherwise is just... it's fantasy." "Different tiers of importance?" Joy repeated, her voice rising. "Every person has value. Every job has dignity. The fact that you don't understand that shows exactly how out of touch you are." "Out of touch?" Harry laughed, bitterly. "I've traveled the world. I've met with leaders, celebrities, changemakers. I've seen poverty, wealth, everything in between. I'm the opposite of out of touch. And yet you're sitting here insulting an entire audience of people who took time out of their day to listen to you." Joy shot back. "That's not worldly. That's just rude." Harry's face reddened. "You know what? I don't have to sit here and be lectured by a talk show host. Do you know who I am? Do you understand what I've given up? What I've sacrificed?" "We all know your story," Joy said firmly. "But your struggles don't give you the right to look down on everyone else. Pain doesn't make you superior." "This is absurd," Harry said, shaking his head. "I came here as a favor, to grace this show with my presence. And this is how I'm treated? Grace us with your presence?" Joy's voice was sharp now. "Harry, you're a guest on this show. A guest, not a king granting an audience." Harry stood up abruptly. "I don't need this. I really don't. There are plenty of shows that would be honored to have me." "Then maybe you should go to one of those shows," Joy said, standing as well. "Because right now, you're being incredibly disrespectful to me, to my co-hosts, and to everyone watching." "Fine," Harry said, ripping off his microphone. "I'll leave. But don't think for a second that this reflects poorly on me. This is your show's failure, not mine." Joy pointed toward the exit. "The door's right there. Don't let it hit you on the way out." Harry's face went from red to purple. "You can't talk to me like that. Do you know who I am?" "Yes, I do," Joy said, her voice calm but ice cold. "You're someone who forgot that respect is earned, not inherited. You're someone who thinks a title makes you better than everyone else. And right now, you're someone who needs to leave my show." "Your show?" Harry spat. "This circus? You're welcome to it. Enjoy your audience of nobodies watching from their couches." The audience exploded with boos and shouts. Security started moving toward the stage. Joy stood her ground, arms crossed. "Goodbye, Harry. Maybe take some time to reflect on how you treat people." Harry grabbed his jacket and stormed toward the wings, but he turned back one more time. "You'll regret this, Joy. You have no idea what you've just done." "What I've done," Joy called after him. "I've stood up for basic human decency. If that's something you can't handle, that's your problem, not mine." Harry pointed at her, his finger shaking with anger. "Nobody speaks to me this way. Nobody. I've dealt with actual journalists, real interviewers who understand protocol and respect." "Protocol?" Joy laughed, but there was no humor in it. This isn't Buckingham Palace. This is daytime television in America, where we don't bow to anyone. We treat people with respect when they deserve it. And you lost that privilege about 5 minutes ago. Unbelievable, Harry muttered, but loud enough for the microphones to catch. Absolutely unbelievable. This country has no sense of decorum anymore. We have plenty of decorum, Joy countered. What we don't have is patience for people who think they're above everyone else. One of Joy's co-hosts tried to interject. Maybe we should all just take a breath and... No, Joy cut her off, not taking her eyes off Harry. We're past that point. Harry made his feelings clear. He thinks we're beneath him. He thinks our audience is beneath him. And I'm not going to pretend that's okay. Harry took a step back toward the table. You're twisting my words. Am I? Joy challenged. Let's recap. You called our audience unsophisticated. You said they couldn't understand your work. You implied that people with regular jobs aren't contributing to society. You called this show a circus. Did I miss anything? The audience applauded Joy's summary. Harry's mouth opened and closed, searching for words. That's not... I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? Joy pressed. Because from where I'm standing, you came onto this show with an agenda to make yourself feel superior by putting everyone else down. I was trying to be honest, Harry insisted. To have a real conversation instead of the usual fluff. Honesty without kindness is just cruelty, Joy said. You can be real without being cruel. You can be honest without being insulting. But you chose to be both cruel and insulting. And now you're surprised there are consequences? Harry's voice rose. What consequences? You're just a talk show host. You have no power over me. You're right, Joy agreed. I don't have power over you, but I have the power to decide who stays on my stage, and right now, I'm deciding you need to go. Fine, Harry shouted. I'm leaving, but everyone will know how I was treated here. Everyone will know that Joy Behar couldn't handle a real conversation. Please, Joy said, waving her hand. Tell whoever you want. Tell your friends, your family, your publicity team. Tell them that you came on a talk show, insulted everyone in sight, and then got asked to leave. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. Harry's face was a mask of fury. You're making a huge mistake. The only mistake I made was thinking you'd learn something about humility, Joy said. Clearly, I was wrong. Humility? Harry scoffed. That's rich coming from someone who makes a living shouting over her co-hosts and pretending to be an expert on everything. Joy's eyes narrowed. At least I don't pretend I'm better than everyone else, just because of who my family is. My family built a legacy over 1,000 years, Harry shot back. What's your legacy, Joy? 30 years of daytime television? Congratulations. The audience gasped at the insult. Joy stepped closer to him, her voice dropping, but somehow becoming more powerful. My legacy is treating people with respect. My legacy is showing up every day and having honest conversations. My legacy is standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. What's yours? Harry's mouth twitched. You couldn't possibly understand the weight of my responsibilities. Try me, Joy challenged. Because from where I'm standing, your biggest responsibility right now should be apologizing to every single person in this room. Apologize? Harry laughed harshly. For what? For telling the truth. For refusing to play along with this charade where we pretend everyone's equal when they're clearly not? Everyone is equal, Joy said firmly. That's not a charade. That's a fundamental truth. The fact that you don't believe that is honestly sad. Harry shook his head dismissively. You live in a fantasy world. The real world has hierarchies, structures, order. Some people lead, some people follow. That's just how it works. And you think you're a leader? Joy asked. Leaders inspire people. They lift people up. They don't tear them down to make themselves feel important. I don't need to make myself feel important, Harry snapped. I am important. That's not arrogance. It's just reality. Joy crossed her arms. If you have to tell people you're important, you're probably not as important as you think you are. The audience erupted in applause and cheers. Harry's face flushed deeper. This is exactly the problem with American media. No respect for tradition, no understanding of proper social order. Proper social order? Joy repeated incredulously. Harry, this is America. We don't have lords and ladies here. We don't bow to royalty. We believe in equality and democracy. And look where that's gotten you, Harry muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. The studio went completely silent. Even Joy's co-hosts looked stunned. Joy took a breath, visibly controlling her temper. What did you just say? You heard me, Harry said defiantly. Your precious democracy has given you political chaos, social division, economic inequality. Maybe a little more respect for hierarchy wouldn't be such a bad thing. Joy's voice was dangerously calm. Get out. What? Harry blinked. I said get out, Joy repeated. Right now. This interview is over. Harry laughed, but it sounded forced. You can't just kick me out. Watch me, Joy said. This is my show. This is my table, and you are no longer welcome here. You're being ridiculous, Harry protested. I'm trying to have an adult conversation, and you're acting like a child. An adult conversation? Joy's voice rose. You've insulted me, my co-hosts, our audience, and now our entire country. That's not a conversation. That's you running your mouth without any consideration for anyone else. Harry stood up, towering over Joy, but she didn't back down an inch. I've been nothing but honest with you. Honesty without tact is just brutality, Joy said. And right now, you're being brutal to people who've done nothing to deserve it. They're sitting here judging me, Harry said, gesturing to the audience. I can feel it. Maybe because you've given them plenty of reasons to judge you, Joy countered. You've spent the last 15 minutes proving exactly why they should. Harry's voice dripped with sarcasm. Oh, I'm so sorry I'm not performing like a trained seal for your entertainment. Nobody asked you to perform, Joy said. We asked you to be respectful. That's it. That's the bar. And somehow, you couldn't clear it. This whole show is beneath me, Harry declared. I should never have agreed to come here. Finally, Joy said, something we agree on. You shouldn't have come here, because we deserve better than this. Harry grabbed his water glass and took a long drink, clearly trying to regain his composure. When he set it down, his voice was colder. You know what your problem is, Joy. You can't handle someone who doesn't kiss up to you. My problem? Joy laughed without humor. Harry, you've spent this entire interview expecting everyone to kiss up to you. And when we didn't, you threw a tantrum. I'm not throwing a tantrum, Harry insisted, even as his voice rose. I'm simply refusing to participate in this farce any longer. Good, Joy said. Then leave. The door's right there. Nobody's stopping you. Fine, Harry said, but he didn't move. But don't expect me to forget this. Don't expect anyone in my circle to forget how I was treated here. Joy shrugged. Tell whoever you want. Tell the whole world. I'll sleep just fine tonight, knowing I stood up for what's right. Harry finally ripped off his microphone, the movement aggressive enough that it made a loud pop through the speakers. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I do, Joy said. I'm dealing with someone who thinks his last name gives him permission to treat people badly. I'm dealing with someone who's so wrapped up in his own sense of importance that he's forgotten basic manners. I'm dealing with someone who needs to leave. Now. Security was now at the edge of the stage, waiting for direction. Harry saw them, and his expression shifted from anger to indignation. You're having me escorted out? Like a criminal? Like a guest who's overstayed his welcome, Joy corrected. There's a difference. Harry looked at the security guards, then back at Joy, then at the audience. For a moment, it seemed like he might say something else. His mouth opened, but Joy held up her hand. Don't, she said simply. Just don't. You've said enough. More than enough. Harry's shoulders sagged slightly, but the anger was still burning in his eyes. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Joy said with finality. "It's very much over." Harry turned on his heel and walked off the stage, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. The security guards followed at a respectful distance, not touching him but making their presence known. The audience watched in stunned silence as he disappeared into the wings. Joy stood at the table for a long moment, collecting herself. Then she turned to the camera, her professional mask sliding back into place. "Well," she said, and the audience could hear the slight shake in her voice. That was unexpected. The audience burst into applause, rising to their feet. Joy held up her hands, trying to quiet them down. "Thank you, but let's be clear about something. I didn't enjoy that. I don't enjoy conflict, but I will not sit here and let anyone disrespect the people who watch this show." More applause. Joy waited for it to die down before continuing. "We work hard to bring you good conversations, interesting guests, important topics, and part of that responsibility is knowing when someone has crossed a line." One of her co-hosts spoke up. "Joy, you handled that with so much grace." Joy shook her head. "I don't know about grace, but I do know about respect. And when someone shows they have none, they don't get to stay at this table." The audience applauded again. Joy took a deep breath and looked directly at the camera. "To everyone watching at home, thank you for your patience during that. And to anyone who feels like they were insulted by what our guest said, please know that his words don't reflect the values of this show or anyone who works here." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Everyone has value. Every job matters. Whether you're a teacher or a doctor or a stay-at-home parent or working retail or anything else, you matter. Your life matters. Your work matters. And don't let anyone, royal or otherwise, tell you different." The applause was thunderous now. Joy smiled, a genuine smile, and nodded her thanks. "All right, we need to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about something much more pleasant. Stay with us." The cameras cut away, and Joy sank into her chair. Her co-hosts gathered around her, offering support and amazement at what had just transpired. In the wings, production staff scrambled to adjust the rest of the show's schedule. And somewhere outside the studio, Harry was learning that a title doesn't shield you from the consequences of your own words. The commercial break felt longer than usual. Joy used the time to center herself, to process what had happened. She'd been in broadcasting for decades, had dealt with difficult guests before, but this was different. This wasn't someone being deliberately provocative for attention. This was someone who genuinely believed he was better than everyone else. When the cameras came back on, Joy had regained her composure completely. She addressed the audience with her usual warmth and wit, steering the conversation to lighter topics. But the energy in the studio had changed. There was a sense of solidarity, of shared experience. The audience had witnessed something real, something unscripted and raw. As the show continued, Joy occasionally glanced at the empty seat where Harry had been sitting. She didn't gloat about what had happened. She didn't mock him or make jokes at his expense. She simply moved forward, proving that grace and strength could coexist. Behind the scenes, phones were ringing off the hook. Social media was exploding. Video clips were being shared thousands of times per minute. But Joy didn't know that yet, and even if she did, it wouldn't have mattered. She'd done what she felt was right, standing up for her audience and her principles. The rest of the show went smoothly, covering topics that ranged from politics to pop culture. Joy's co-hosts brought their usual energy and insight. The audience remained engaged, perhaps even more so than usual. There was a sense that they'd been part of something important, something that would be talked about for a long time. As the show wrapped up, Joy delivered her closing remarks with her characteristic blend of humor and sincerity. She thanked the audience for watching, reminded them to be kind to each other, and signed off with her usual farewell. The cameras stopped rolling, and the studio lights dimmed. Joy removed her microphone and stood, stretching after an hour of intense television. Her co-hosts hugged her, congratulating her on handling the situation. Production staff approached with questions about statements and responses, but Joy waved them off, needing a moment to herself. She walked to her dressing room, closed the door, and sat down in front of the mirror. Looking at her reflection, she saw not just a talk show host, but someone who'd stood up for what mattered. The job came with glamour and recognition, but it also came with responsibility. The responsibility to use her platform wisely, to speak truth, to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. Joy thought about Harry, about how someone could have so much and still feel the need to diminish others. She thought about the audience members who'd been insulted, the viewers at home who'd heard themselves called nobodies, and she knew, without a doubt, that she'd made the right choice. In that moment, sitting alone in her dressing room, Joy Behar understood something fundamental about power and respect. True authority doesn't come from a title or a birthright. It comes from how you treat people when you have nothing to gain from treating them well. It comes from standing up when it's easier to stay silent. It comes from recognizing that every person, regardless of their station in life, deserves basic human dignity. The knock on her dressing room door broke her reverie. It was time to deal with the aftermath, to answer questions, to process what had happened. But first, Joy allowed herself one more moment of quiet reflection. She'd faced down a prince and hadn't blinked. She'd defended her audience and her values. And tomorrow, she'd do it all over again, because that's what the job required. Joy stood, smoothed her hair, and opened the door. Whatever came next, she was ready for it. Because at the end of the day, she knew who she was and what she stood for. And that was worth more than any royal title or fancy credentials. The hallway outside her dressing room buzzed with activity. Producers gestured wildly. Phones pressed to their ears. Writers huddled in corners, already crafting statements. Security personnel stood at attention, ready for whatever might happen next. But through it all, Joy walked with her head held high, greeting each person with a smile and a word of thanks. She'd done her job. She'd done it well. And she'd done it without compromising her principles or her integrity. In the world of television, where ratings and controversy often trump everything else, that meant something. It meant everything.